Russell T Davies, creator of It's a Sin. I know this is a story you've been wanting to tell for a really long time, probably close to 30 years now, and you did other projects in between, like Queer as Folk. So when and how did you finally get to this point where you were ready to tell this story about the onset of the AIDS crisis in London?
I think I was always building towards it. I'm the age of the characters. I was 18 in 1981. That kind of made the research easier. I was like, oh, that's me, right? Yes. I could remember what I was wearing and who I fancied and stuff like that. But it's funny, I was talking to a psychologist the other day. He said, actually, do you know, he had a theory that it takes 30 years for you to survive a trauma and to turn around and understand it. And that's a bit of a pat theory in a way, I know. But I was rather taken with that, thinking, yeah, I lived through that crisis. It's been in my work all the time, ticking away. I was doing an HIV story in a children's drama in 1993. So it has been there, but to do it center stage took a long time. I'm simply glad that I waited. I think I'm a better writer after all these years. I think I've got more of a perspective on it. I think it's an interesting time. I think a generation's coming along that knows nothing about the AIDS crisis. I think, and the transmission of the show proved this, the parents of those people are kind of passing away now. That generational passover happening, that means it's a good time to put your hands up and say, look, this happened, this happened. So, of course, it's all chance in the end, isn't it? It's like if I hadn't spent 10 years on Doctor Who, we'd be having this conversation 10 years ago. So it's like you can't really plan these things. But if there is a plan, I'm kind of glad it worked out.
Mm-hmm. What was the writing process like? Did you like write things down over the years, like ideas, or was this something where when you're ready to do it, did you just write it all at once?
I didn't write them down, but I think probably like all of us, I just store them in there. And it's an unusual series in that I think almost every line I could get a tape measure and a set and some forensic equipment like they use on CSI and show you exactly where that came from in my timeline. Things that I heard in 1990, things that I heard in 1985, things that I heard a couple of years ago. There was a massive store of stuff. And, I'm a gay man. I live in a gay world and a queer community. And it's a subject very often on our fingertips. So it was there. Also a massive amount of research, I've got to say. I say, I lived through that period. But actually, when you sit down at this very desk, and you think to yourself, what's the difference between 1981 and 1985? No idea. So you kind of have to go back to scratch and relearn everything in a way. And that's a good process. Then you see things differently, see things that you never realized. But no, basically me in this chair, sweating, crying, laughing at my own jokes.
Well, I mean, I would imagine if you had done this like 25 years ago, there have been a lot of difficulty getting it greenlit. What kind of pushback, if any, did you get this time doing it now?
Oh, it wasn't an easy commission. It was a very difficult commission, considering, I've got a nice career. I've got a bit of status in the industry. Doors are open to me that other people would love to have open, but this took a while. And there was no homophobia in that or anything like that. To be absolutely honest, people thought they'd seen it before. And that's because there's a great big legacy of American telling of the AIDS crisis. Wonderful films, wonderful dramas. We live in the shadow of Angels in America and The Normal Heart and Tony Kushner. Those great writers. And but strangely, on British television, the story had been told more through soap operas and those kind of evening programs, those long-running shows, long-running medical dramas like our equivalent of Grey's Anatomy, where especially during the 80s and 90s, where every other week someone would turn up with HIV, someone would turn up with AIDS, that story would be told. So when I was selling it to commissioners, you could see their faces glazing, and some of them said, I think we've seen this. And it's really hard to sit there and say, you think you've seen it, but you haven't actually seen it, and you haven't seen it from a gay writer's point of view. So that was tough. I can't complain about toughness because I got it made, and I'm very happy and I'm delighted with the show. So no great martyrdom went into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I noticed was that on the show, you didn't really show the characters' deaths. You would, show like after the fact, like the nurses cleaning the beds or like the family burning the belongings, which is very sad because it's like it's these memories of these people that they should keep, but they're burning them because they want to get rid of everything they touched. So can you talk about that decision to not actually show them dying?
Yes, it's the whole series was a whole, as they all are, a bundle of tough decisions, because actually it's 5 episodes with 4 deaths in it, and 4 gay male deaths, 4 young gay male deaths. That's, that's hard. That's, how do I keep that different? How do I keep that balanced? How do I keep the audience with you? And it's also the kind of challenge I think everyone on this panel today would enjoy. We like that tough stuff because it exercises the skills. But I think it's a ghastly disease. It's ghastly. It's opportunistic. It's changeable. It's different. It's prolonged a lot of the time. And there's a glamour on screen sometimes. When there's real deaths. I mean, if I'm doing a murder and a chase, I mean, the death's quite exciting. But this is a real story that really happened to thousands of people, not just men, obviously, but the series is being told to a gay male prism. And so there's something that made me pull back and said, let's be more discreet. And it's about the whole philosophy of the show was that it's about the lives that they lived and not the deaths that they died from. So it was kind of that, I think, and I think it worked. I'm quite proud of that decision.
Yeah, like it kind of didn't focus on, like you said, like it didn't glamorize deaths, and it was just kind of like yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like a lot of times you see them suffering, and it's really about their lives and the celebration of the joy, like these young 20-something men,
I'm also kind of aware of it fitting into a great, and this is an unusual thing to think when you create something, but I knew it was fitting into a great big body of work of HIV and AIDS dramas. Not a great big body, quite a select body actually, but in which there's brilliant stuff. For example, there's an Australian film called Holding the Man, which is a beautiful piece of work, and it literally has the finest death scene I've ever seen in my life. And if you haven't seen it, go and see that film, because the death scene is absolutely delicate and heartbreaking and beautiful. So, but then I sit here thinking, well, I'm not going to beat that, am I? That's done it. But also, it frees me to tell stories in other ways. I'm thinking, right, they've done that. There's a fantastic French film called Beats Per Minute, which has a lot of hospital scenes, a lot of suffering. There's a scene in that of sex in hospital with someone who's dying, which is extraordinary and beautiful. But again, I think, right, I don't have to go there. I was very much balancing all these other pieces of work, thinking I'll find the gaps where they haven't told stories and yeah.
And I know you were very adamant about casting gay actors in these parts. So why was that important to you? And did you get any pushback for that too?
Oh my God, have you got 3 hours? Pushback of straight people. Imagine how much straight people love that day. Well, I've been called onto like every chat show in Britain, which inadvertently was great publicity for the show, so that worked. It kind of got us onto places that wouldn't have advertised the show, ended up advertising. Oh, it's a really long discussion. It's my policy. It's not a policy for the whole industry. Why would anyone listen to me? But I believe in it. I don't think gayness is performative. I think you're there to act falling in love, or to being a drug addict, or to be on the run, or to be a Martian. You're not there. The gayness. People say it's acting. People go, but it's acting. And I'm going, yes, that's the point. It's visibly acting. I don't want to see how gay you can be. What it's like for you to kiss another man, or what it's like for you to kiss another woman. That's not what it's about. And also, I speak as someone who literally, working in this business, I have hundreds and hundreds of gay actors telling me they can't get parts. And then you see straight actors in their roles. And it's just, what I'm just trying to do is get a balance. It's simply a balance, and it's where we are right now. We are in a world right now where I think none of us would cast a non-disabled person in a disabled role. I'd never cast a non-trans person in a trans role now. It's an interesting place to be. It doesn't mean we're going to stay here. It doesn't do any harm if we do stay here. But right now, that authenticity, when the cameras and everything's 4D and we're close and everyone's televisions are this big and you can see right into the soul of the actor's eyes, right there is not where I want to see gayness being acted. I want to see the story being acted. And I want to give people who don't get leading roles a chance, because when you go to cast actors, gay actors in leading roles, suddenly your list is practically zero. The people who raise money for a show, the big names, the big stars, gay ones, 2 or 3, if that. So I'm just bringing that balance back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not that equity yet in the industry. So, a lot of people want a second season of the show, but I know you've been, again, also very adamant about this being a mini series. So, why did you want to keep the story finite?
Well, I kind of wasn't expecting to be successful, to be honest. That took me by surprise. AIDS, we were all like, at Christmas, we were all like, sitting in our rooms going, how the hell do we sell this? It's like, we'll have a
I
polite
did
round of applause.
a single person discreetly.
But it's
he did it
a lot
as
of
a
the
very public figure.
Your voice. Anyway, a lot of the characters have died. I just like moving on. I spent a long time on a long runner called Doctor Who, which I loved. But now, since then, I just like doing a different show every year. I'm writing a new show now, right here, and it's a blank page. I've never done it before. It's 3 hours long. I'm excited. So I just it's just me being a bit of a tart, really, and wanting to move on and try something new.
That's totally fair. So, and can't wait to see what that show is. But Russell, thank you so much for being here. It's great speaking with you.
What pleasure to be with these people on this panel. The talent here.
Now you get to relax and watch everyone else. That's how you went first.